Hello everyone, welcome to the live stream for tonight. This is Tuesday the 9th of June. So today's stream is basically a whole recap about the health response bill protest that was peaceful in the Wellington city, that moved on forward to it started off at the train station at Wellington, and then it moved on forward to Parliament's grounds, where everyone had their say and their voice, and it was a great turnout, and I was there. I attended. It was great. And just filming it all, and yeah, it just felt great to film it all. And we will have a story coming out later on tonight. Not tonight, sorry. Later on in the week. Sorry, had a long day. But yeah, anyways, I'll keep the chatter low, and I'll move it on to Michael K in a moment, and Mike Isles once they get introduced by me. So Mike Isles, of course, is the NZ Outdoors Party board member. So hello, Mike Isles, and then we've got Michael K.
Good evening.
We've got Michael K, which is the NZ Outdoors Party Otaki candidate. So yeah, anyways, I'll move it on to Michael K, and he can have his say of things, and then we'll get stuck into the whole recap of the whole protest.
Yeah, g'day everyone. So another good week. Been a very just going to bring you up to date with a bit of news with the Outdoors Party. We've had a fantastic week working on policy, and we're really getting close to being able to release that, so that people can see just exactly what we have been listening to. Part of these protests that have been rolling out through the country. They're not just protests; they're an opportunity for people to actually be able to get to say where their line is. Walk, talk and chalk is all about, for you or for anybody, to be able to say, this is the line that, I don't want you to cross, government. And, and it's a great opportunity. We've been locked down for quite a long time. It's in living memory. Not many people would remember back to, the Spanish flu, because most people have passed away, but today this is something that we will all remember. It's a time where we've been very fortunate. We haven't had as yet any great death toll or anything like that, and for 18 consecutive days or something we're case free. So, as with most political parties, we really support that we should be completely outdoors. We should be completely free. And we just hope that this is not going to be some sort of long-term effect. But, there is residual things before COVID-19 that have what we've found out as we've gone through the country. There's a lot of people not very happy with just the erosion of our human rights, and that's been going on for a long time, really. It's surprised us. I just want to bring your attention to one of the cutest sort of comments that I saw on Facebook, because somebody actually threw their support in and said, we support you, crazy conspiracy nutters. I'm voting for the New Zealand Outdoors Party. We're not actually conspiracy nutters. We're just people like you. We just don't. We have a line, and what we're doing is we're taking, as a party, we've taken some of the positions that people have put in place, that they say that is a line. You're not putting 1080 into our outdoors, into our waterways, and into our potentially into us. And I can't see a problem why that would be a conspiracy. And we support 5G, the banning of 5G, and I can't see why that would be a conspiracy. It's owned by AT&T and Time Warner, and it's got no safety precedent that's set, other than whoever the first country is going to roll it out and what might happen. I dismiss any idea that the New Zealand Outdoors Party is a bunch of people that connects two things together and says that 5G has ultimately got anything to do with coronavirus. I am in this party. I don't have any of my peers that believe that. They believe that coronavirus is a bad thing, and they believe 5G is a bad thing. They're two separate things. But we found a very, very warm welcome in our Wellington protest, where we went down and we found the support of the Ban 1080 group and many other protest groups, and we had a wonderful protest, which we'll sort of go into more later. But it's a very, very good thing to start thinking about where is your line. We had a good show last week where we had Bill Quinn on from Organics, and for Bill, his line was, he did not want an industry that he spent all his life in supporting being sort of gobbled up by big government or private industry. He wanted it to stay in the hands of the people, and that's a person that spent their entire life supporting people into the world of organics and to thriving nature, and it's sort of a sign of our times that to actually protest things, or to we have to protest things in a way which, why I'm standing is that people don't have to go to the extreme to have to protest, because I don't trust our government, as many shouldn't, that there's not going to be harm to people who protest. And when we look at what's happening over in America, when we see the harm that's been put on people, no matter what they believe and why, there's a considerable amount of harm that has been placed on them, and will continue to do so, because it's really accelerating, and accelerating in a very, very bad way. They're not allowed to use smoke, they're not allowed to use water, and soon they won't be allowed to use rubber bullets. And I don't think the New Zealand people know just how severe the next thing that will be used upon them is. The next thing that will be used upon them is lethal force. And, for Trump to come out and say, well, the National Guard went straight through those protesters, well, that's a pretty severe sort of thing. We didn't have anything like that. And I was very pleased today to see that the armed special unit that was rolled out before COVID-19, that was meant to be deployed on people where cops would come out of it with semi-automatic guns and all that sort of stuff, that is probably going to be canned. And that's good. That's a good start. But there's a lot more things that we don't know about. And if I hadn't come into this party and met the people that are in this party and the experiences that they've had and the situations that they're in, I wouldn't know that there's people sitting in remand that they have not been judged guilty. They haven't even had a proper trial. And they've been sitting all the way through this COVID-19 in 23 hours isolation, and they've been treated like the worst criminals that you could possibly believe. And these people may not even be guilty of what they're supposed to be in there for. And these sorts of things is the product of, we have a conservative movement in this country that believes not in big government. It believes in private enterprise. Private enterprise is best. And I've spent some time in that headspace. I've spent some time in sort of thinking, government is bad. But what we have now is American-owned and run prisons. And, these American prisons profit on the amount of making sure that those prisons are full with customers, and the customer is our people. So there's a lot of things that I personally have learned, and I'm very, very grateful to all of the people in the Outdoors Party that are candidates or members that share their story. And I'm also really, really excited to hear all of the things that Sue and Alan have got back from people throughout New Zealand, especially through the South Island, as they've travelled very courageously through, hardly any sleep, and done a fantastic journey to go through most of these towns and meet people and find out with their walk, talk and chalk exactly where their line is. And they've been received very, very well. And I think it comes down to, what is democracy? And democracy is actually listening to the people. And I'm very, very, very proud to say that I believe that the Outdoors Party is doing that like no other political party is. And I'm very, very grateful to the people that do participate with us in this journey to try and bring democracy and try and bring freedom back to this country. And you might think of that and might say, well, hey, I don't think that we've lost that. Well, we've got sections that have been put in well before the COVID-19 bill. That means that our farms can be just walked into by agents of MPI, and our homes walked into, and all of our stuff taken. That to me is fascism. It's communism. It's whatever you want to put it to. It's brutal. It's not right. And that's my line. And then the COVID-19 bill came along. So I'm happy and proud to go down and stand shoulder to shoulder with those people that went down there that day on Wednesday the 3rd of June. And what a wonderful bunch of people. They really, really were. James, who led the protest, was just an amazing guy. He'd actually travelled all the way down from Kaitaia to help run that protest. And, we all met at the railway station, and the police turned up, fairly quickly. And they were very good. They were very, 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 very dignified to us, and the protesters were to them. And they let us go on our way, and we absolutely did everything to respect everybody that was trying to go about their business. And it was a very, very, very good event. And we had an enormous amount of people that were driving past yelling support and that sort of thing, and that was awesome. I mean, I didn't know. It's been a long time since I went to a protest. I mean, I can sort of remember the Springbok tour and things like that. But you actually felt quite safe in that group of people. And there was a couple of detractors, but they were sort of not really people that you would sort of they were unsafe in a way. So and we had an uneventful trip there, and we got onto the Parliament grounds where there was barriers pre-erected, and we stood behind the barriers, and everybody had their say, and the chants were fantastic. I think that's I've got to hand it to James. James is just he's got that just off pat. And we had Uncle Ricky turned up, and we had some incredibly good speakers. We had a wonderful young girl talk for she probably talked for about 10 minutes, and she really blew my mind, actually, because here she was really talking about nature and nurture. Just share with you one of the little things that she said, and I thought it really summed up old New Zealand, what we used to be like. She said that she'd read this scientific study, and it was about staying healthy. And one of the things that was in that study was sort of a quota of hugs. And she said that people that got at least 2 or 3 hugs a day were much healthier than people that didn't. And we're a country that has very, very high suicide. It has very, very high self-reported mental health issues. And this young girl sort of really summed it up when she was talking about food and the importance of not poisoning our environment and the importance of us in the environment, humanity, and how we treat each other and how we should treat each other with respect and kindness. And, I thought that was really something else. I just think that was just an amazing speech. And there was a lot of amazing speeches. And, there was a couple of protesters there that, they're characters. But the whole event, it certainly wasn't overshadowed, or it wasn't spoiled or anything like that. But the only sort of check mark on it was the arrival of the House Speaker, Trevor Mallard. And some of you might have seen the post. He consequently, in days after, has actually showed some similar very strange behaviour, which is all we can really put it down to. But Trevor came out and went right for one of the banners, which was displayed on the lawn, and Sue, good old Sue, she went over to try and sort of talk him down, but also encourage him to come and speak to the people that had actually come to speak to him. Well, I don't know really that went to what good. He certainly didn't accept that, but he was sort of tussling with the other, these people's banner, and gave that up. And so, he got a bit of a jeering from the crowd when he obviously was refusing not to come and talk to us. Nothing too bad. And then he went for another one, which was on the, which I think, Sam, was actually the Maori flag, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was the Māori flag. So we actually do have footage, but I'm trying to get it on the stream right now so you guys can see it. We actually have people that sent through footage of us, of Trevor Mallard, of course, grabbing a Māori flag towards the end. Now, what got me really, really questionable about the whole entire Trevor Mallard thing is not that he's, this famous guy that just comes out of the, the building and in front of a, large crowd that could potentially attack him or, do stuff like that. What got me the most is that, like you said, he grabbed the Māori flag and another sign that was on the fence of the steel fence at the protest. But basically in the Parliament rules, it doesn't state that you can't mount a flag or anything like that to the fence. It says you can't mount it to the steps, which really got me a bit questionable. It is understandable about the sign being in the ground, of course. And of course that is against Parliament rules. It's kind of stupid in my opinion. But what I'm trying to say here is that the sign was about the health response bill, and for Trevor Mallard to go take that down, it kind of makes you question if it was, maybe a setup or something like that. But we can't conspire. We have to go off fact, and of course, us as a media company are doing that research right now. And that's probably why you haven't seen the protest footage, because, of course, it's a little bit suspicious as to why Trevor Mallard even came out to take down signs in front of a large crowd. It's almost as if, it wanted to be a different kind of portrayal, but it didn't turn out the way he wanted it to happen. So that's just my 2 cents of the whole entire thing from filming it, because I was down there filming the whole protest, and I was told by certain people that I should film everything. And filming everything turned out to backfire on their end of things when Trevor Mallard came out. But the whole protest, in my opinion, was a little bit weird. But the people coming along to support it were all amazing. We had all sorts of people there, and even though they were all different subjects of matters, they all came together, and that means like the 1080 group, the All Lives, and I think there was one other. I can't remember who else was there. But they all came together, and there was no arguments. There was nothing like that. They all came together because they were the people that wanted their rights as New Zealanders. So I think it was a good protest, and the only thing that kind of ruined it for everyone was the Trevor Mallard thing. So we're doing some review into that. If you're watching, just play note that we are doing review. We are getting legal checks to make sure that we can produce that footage to the public, because if we produce that footage and we show that just a face of someone and they're like a government official or whatnot, we can get into serious trouble as a company. So we've just got to be very careful when it comes to that stuff. But in terms of the whole protest, I think it was amazing, and I believe if people come together as one, we can we can make change, and to make that change, of course, happened, and it caused Trevor Mallard to come out. So I mean, obviously they were listening, and they knew that something was happening, which was a protest outside of Parliament. Inside Parliament grounds, and of course they noticed it and came out, but they didn't address the crowd. So I think that's the only thing that's wrongdoing about the whole thing, in my opinion. But I believe the whole protest was amazing.
No, it's a very, from my perspective, it's when people like I said, James had come all the way down from Kaitaia. When people have put an effort in to to actually sort of, get some answers, basically, put their position across. This is what I believe and why. He was out there. He could have easily taken the mic. It was offered to him and addressed the crowd. There was no reason not to. He was elected by that crowd. So that was a bit sad, but the great thing is that he knew that we were there. You don't know, do you? Every time you go down to Parliament, you don't even know if anybody's there. You watch the Parliament TV, and sometimes there's only 6 people in the House, so it's sort of tough. We watch sort of the the debating chambers in other countries, and they just seem to be full on, and democracy seems to be raging. Lots of dissent, lots of good debate. We've sort of got to a point, I think, in the House where we've got somebody might say the wrong word or something like that, they get thrown out. They seem to be more concerned about bickering about small things. They don't seem to be really, debating the things that the people really care about. Not in our experience, not in where we've been talking to the people. The people don't care about what Parliament's going on about. They care about what's affecting their lives, what's absent from their lives. That's the big problem. And looking at some of the solutions going forward, like last week I said that water bill, like I still can't get over that you'd need a land use consent if you were taking on a block that had just had pine trees removed off it, and it was all, basically, damaged soil and, pine slash and everything all in the waterways, and, you'd have to have a consent to put it back into pasture. That's just madness to me. How did that happen? There's so much of the result of what we've paid a hell of a lot of money to produce, really, with how this process works. We've paid a lot for the politicians. We've paid a lot for their associate staff. We've paid a lot for MFE and MPI. We've paid a hell of a lot for all of this, the processes. A lot of the private companies. We pay another layer once it goes out to regional council and local council. We're just paying. There's not a shovel gone in the ground. There's not a tree planted. And we're paying all this money, and the Outdoors Party believes that that's not the way. That's not the New Zealand way. The New Zealand way is you gather around, you find out what the problem is, and you say, if not this, what? And the what's the important thing. So I'm going on a little bit, sounding all negative and stuff, but I'm actually feeling really positive. I'm feeling really positive that there's so many people out there that after COVID-19, after we've had a bit of a break, a bad break, but a break. We've been forced indoors. Now we've been let out. Well, what are we going to do? We've got to do something that isn't like what we've done before. It's got to be something very, very special, and we've got to come out of this with a very resilient economy. We've got to come out of this with a very productive economy. We have to say goodbye to consumerism. We cannot consume like we are. Our exports and our imports are exactly the same. We're going nowhere. We never were like that. We've always been a productive nation. We've always been a caring nation. We're one of the most caring countries in the world. That's why we get scammed, because you ring up anybody in this country and say, oh, there's these starving people somewhere, or there's this or there's that, will you donate money? Oh yeah, okay, and that's why we get scammed, because we care. We've got to care for ourselves. We've got to care for each other. We've got to care for our neighbour, and we've got to embrace this idea of localism. And you couldn't, when you get people coming down all the way from Kaitaia, you get people coming from the South Island for that protest. People will come from all over the country like that, and people can come from just in your neighbourhood like that and build local labs, I think, as you're planning, instead of paying all this money into this government type planning. Actually build these local planning labs with the people that it affects, and you can produce ideas and outcomes, and embrace the things that we once used to be very, very strong with wool, with natural fibres. This whole regenerative thing, it doesn't work from above. It works from the grassroots. It works from the ground, and it works us. So.
And I just want to add to that, when you see like a representative of the country, storm and not actually address these people, it makes you, wonder, like, are they actually doing stuff for people, get this country going again? And that I would like to add in that too.
Yeah, and I guess Trevor's been a really great character in a lot of ways as an elected MP. You know, he's always been quite witty. He's certainly never shrugged off like that the opportunity to speak to a crowd. He's never taken a backward foot, and I don't know why he did. You know, it shocked me. I thought, well, that's one person that will speak to the crowd. That's good. That's good for everybody if he does.
Yeah, and the people were cheering too. Like, you know, Trevor Muller. Like, I could, you know, from hearing the footage, you could hear people wanting him to just address the crowd and why he, you know, what he did, and they're still giving him support until he, you know, up to that second flag, not flag, sorry, sign, and basically ruined the whole thing for everyone.
Yeah, no, there was nobody not encouraging him. That was the sad thing. Even though he was attacking that sign, they were still, come on, Trevor, come and speak, you know. And yeah, so it's just sort of, maybe that's what this election really should be about. I worry a lot, just what the election's going to be like. You know, it looks like we are going to have an election. We're into level 1. But I worry already. It seems like the American media is setting our election, the tone of our election. It's going to be about racism. Now, I've grown up with that. When I went to school in Otaki, it was one of the worst times in the history of Otaki because, and I think we need to address this, Otaki, we lived in segregation in that school. The Maori kids that were my mates were in a prefab building at one end, and the Pākehā kids were down the other end. That's not right. You know, that's in our history. You know, we were strong enough as kids not to let that overcome us. But what a stupid thing. And, you know, so it's sort of every 9 or 10 years, or maybe a dozen years. Maybe it's 3 election cycles or something like that. Maybe it's 4. But we go through this thing of hate the poor or a race war. And it's sort of like the media just, and maybe the incumbent government goes, well, what are we going to do this year? Oh, let's hate the poor. Oh, no. Why don't we have a race war? Well, we've just been through too much. There's too much at stake for that sort of thing. The Prime Minister said that we would unite as people. And I'm concerned that that's not genuine. I think that she has a considerable influence on the governance of this country. And I'd like to hope, I really do, that she would shut down this progression that we're having, which I very much worry about, that we would be encouraged to have a war on race. And I just, you know, I really fear for that. You know, we've spoken out about the COVID-19 bill. It's not against the police. It's against the bill itself and the intent of that bill, because it puts the police, just as much as it does the people of New Zealand, in a very terrible situation. You would probably find that quite a considerable amount of the police in this country do not like the intent of that bill. And, you know, it's sad. We want to make changes when we issue our policy for people to give us feedback on. But we want to make changes in that policy to a lot of things around what governs the police. What I mean by that is there needs to be something that happens, that if something goes wrong, and I'm talking about something similar to what has been whipped up in America with the cowardly death of that war man, with somebody kneeling on him and he's begging for his life and he did not take his knee off. We have the IPCC, and that would be what would be investigating that. And I say, without prejudice, without any doubt in my mind, that that is not a functioning government body. That has not served this country, and it cannot serve this country into the future. And we need to have something that is truly independent. And we also need to have something around whistleblowers. It is desperately urgent in this country that we have some antitrust laws and we have something that protects people that should they need to. I'm really referring more to the public sector. Trevor Mallard himself alleged that there was somebody that he called what I won't repeat because there is no justification for what he said that person was, and caused them to lose their job and caused them great harm. And there is a case that's still active in that. But he, in a sense, bullied that person, in my view, in my opinion. And in the public sector in this country, we have a significant problem of bullying in the public sector. Maybe we do in the private sector too, but the bad thing about the public sector is this public sector has become a very, very high employer, and the turnover rates, which I have been able to get with some official information requests for the likes of MPI and MFE, are up close to 30% per annum. That means that almost one in every three staff leave. Now that's not very good. We've all run business. Most of us have run businesses, or most of us have worked in places that, if you, well, when I was a kid, it was quite often people would leave school, go get a job, and they'd probably be there for their whole life. Today, it's, regrettably, on one side of it, a lot of people don't. A lot of people might have 5 or 6 jobs. Some people might have 3 different jobs. Some people do have a job for life. But, that part has changed. But in the public service areas, they don't have good enough protection against bullying. And initially, when we talked about a bullying policy, I wasn't that keen. But talking to people in the industry and how bad the problem is, and the lack of representation, or the lack of advocacy, and the lack of help that people can ask for in that situation, there's only a tiny amount of help, and that help is overwhelmed, underfunded, and it itself is bullied by the public service. And so that's something that the Outdoors Party wants to finish in policy and put before New Zealand, and for you to consider it. Obviously, once we finish policy, we'll talk all about those policies. Our policies around agriculture and localism will be the best in this country. Those policies have been taken really from our local perspective, but also from watching other countries who have also had to react to the kind of things that New Zealand farmers have been under for the last 30 years and have had to reject before they all lose their farms. I can't stress that enough to New Zealand public, that, and it's not a boohoo cry story or anything like that. It's a reality. It's not in your statistics because they will not print them, but successive governments for far too long have been selling our farmland. I really want to put a mention in here to 50 Shades of Green. Those people, and all of the people that support that is a fantastic activist page, for want of a better word, but that they are documenting the loss of New Zealand's history. They're also documenting in 30 years' time or 25 years' time, when those pine trees are ready to harvest, the total ruination of our waterways. And we have to face that, New Zealand, that if we do not recognise that Pinus radiata is not a forest, it is a plantation, we are in very big trouble, because we will absolutely lose the great thing that New Zealand is and always has been, which is a fantastic hill country, sheep farming country. It is a lifestyle that is second to none. There is nothing like riding over the hills, mustering. There is nothing like going out to the coast, going and getting some power, checking the lambs, checking moving stock. There's nothing like it. Going and hunting a pig, it's iconic to this country, and it's under attack by both major parties. I don't want to make this a singular thing. This is both major parties. That leads off to, I think, the other urgent change that the Outdoors Party is looking at as a bit of a window into what we've been doing. We do think we agree with many other smaller political parties that have in the past brought up and maybe been shut down, that we need significant changes to how electoral funding is reported, governed, and who can pay. Personally, I don't think that any outside overseas interest should be able to donate money into a political campaign of any party in this country. And I don't mean that by being, anti-foreigners. It's like, I don't think that we should be paying either, like John Key did, and this government has, into the American elections. This is madness. That's not democracy. Stay in your own lane. So I think that I'm hoping that all minor parties will support what the Outdoors Party is saying around elections. We have all been put in a position as we go out the gate to start this election that supposedly Facebook will be doing the moderation on what people can say, do, or what have you, whatever we can post in an election. Well, why? And it's just, how much did Facebook pay the New Zealand Labour Party? I guess. I mean, why can't I ask? And why can't I know? And so this is what we have to be very, very careful of this election, that as you cast your vote, that you cast your vote for, I would say, the people or the ideas that you believe in, that you break free of casting your vote to your memory. You might have a memory of what the New Zealand National Party was. You might have a memory to what the New Zealand Labour Party was. And, the New Zealand Labour Party once was an iconic party in this country. And the National Party was too. But we must see these big parties for what they are today, and we must tell them by voting for what we believe in with evidence, and show them that we do not believe in them anymore. So the this week coming up, hopefully we can actually get some policy out. It's a hell of a big job. We're all sort of working on it flat out. We're hoping to also start organising some public meetings throughout the country, and anybody that's a member of the New Zealand Outdoors Party and wanting to participate and help, This is a really good time to make contact with the candidates as they in your area that you can or even contact us, and we'll sort of we'll put you in the right direction. We're going to need all the help that we can. We're not we're completely people powered. We're not corporate powered, so we still think that's more power. So we definitely need to start moving on this election, and we need to still give you what we think the changes will be. The if not this, the what, and what that is. And yeah, we're really hoping that we'll get that out, and Sam, me and Mike, and maybe others that were integral in building some of those policies will be on here to discuss it. And we would really, really like to have, criticise it. If you will get them up, and we desperate for feedback. So we have a few comments, Sam.
Yeah. So we do got a few comments. So I'll ask them to Michael K. Sorry. So our first one is from 5G3 Nelson. So, you know how many attended the Wellington protest?
Oh, that was. I'm always bad on numbers. I'm better at counting sheep or cattle. So I don't know. Would I be wrong in saying there was 200 or 300?
I'd say there's around about maybe 150 to 200. So I reckon it's about that many. Yeah.
It fluctuated a little bit through the time.
Yeah.
I don't know, Sam. I was quite impressed that there was a lot of people that a lot of people that worked in Parliament came and sat and talked, everybody was able to go about their day, and a lot of people sort of joined in. So that was cool.
Had a little sneak peek.
Yeah. So that was awesome. So it was
I think it was great. Like people came along. There's no problems with anyone. They all just viewed it or took into it. Our second comment is from Sharon Ann. Considering most people believe this is another hoax, I think they're meaning it as in the coronavirus. Why aren't you talking about in New Zealand issues, i.e. CCP, which is China, infiltration, and the takeover assisted by all the MPs, both sides selling New Zealand off? That's to Michael.
Yeah. So Sharon, it's actually not. It's not in the dark. It's right out in the open. It's just not collected and put into a way that you can actually just go on. Like, I made an official information request. I'll tell you a little bit about that. So I got really concerned when I was doing the submission for the Indigenous Biodiversity National Policy. I thought, well, I better start with, like, how much do we own? How much do we taxpaying Kiwis own? And so just run by what I sort of found out. It's a bit loose. 50% is owned by the Crown, which is the lands that they put the 1080 in. Then there's, of the other 50%, it really comes down to that by the time you take out towns and stuff like that, and what sort of is owned by us, it really looks like New Zealanders probably own as little as 20% of that 50% that's remaining. It's so loose that I decided, well, I have to make an official information request to the Overseas Investment Office, and I also copied it into the land what's sort of like the land registry, really. And I thought, today, 5G and all, they'd be able to sort of like bang that one out to me within about, receiving the email. They can just hit, search criteria, what's owned by non-tax-paying Kiwis. I was very specific. I just can't remember now what criteria I put it into, but I put it into about 5 different criteria. And to this, it's 42 days ago now, and I'm still got to keep sending another email and saying, well, I don't accept that response because it doesn't tell me anything. So they've as much as said that, well, basically we don't know. So, but what we do know, or they've sent me packets of sales. So we do know that 10,500 hectares, was sold under national. But that's not a figure that stacks up with some of the other. There's some watch groups that basically download everything that the Overseas Investment Office posts, and so that's where we're at. We don't really know how much we own, but thanks to the work of 50 Shades of Green, we do know that as best as what they can find out, because not all of them are notified. And it's a lot of localism. It's a lot of local groundwork where people are actually turning around and saying, well, hey, that station's just been sold to such and such, And so it's all word of mouth. And this government's exceeded what the national government sold by a long way. And like you say, these, you've picked out the CCP. It's you could sort of, their targets have mainly been in my experience have been Waste Management New Zealand. So they've their core target investment or ownership is water and wastewater. The other thing that they're looking at other investments, of course, but there's sort of the same sort of people over and over again that buy the farms for converting into pine forestry. Very good deal, by the way, because if you're a foreign investor, you can slot into one of these farms. You're going to get some free trees and you're going to get some carbon credits. So it's a hell of a good deal. So the other thing I'd like to say, Sharon, is we were quite shocked a couple of years ago. I think was we looked up a company, Mill Trust, that started to appear on some documents that as we're searching through, trying to work out who owns what and so on. And Mill Trust Investments is basically a British savings investment sort of thing. And anyway, so they actually own a considerable amount of dairy farms. That's one of the things that they target. And we decided to look up from their end how they advertised buying farms in New Zealand. So we watched this promotional video, which was obviously not meant for us, but it was meant for investors over in England, or I suppose in the entire, in Europe itself. And they said, it's a wonderful place to invest in New Zealand because the government makes it very, very easy to purchase farms. Workers are very easy to fire. That was a benefit to them, that it was very, very easy to sack workers. And most of the farmers are old and want to sell, so there's no pushback. And it just went on, and it was sort of a little bit hard to listen to your country being talked to like that, or to think that here was a government back here in New Zealand and it's talking about protecting New Zealand for, our grandchildren, and in New Zealand for Maori and all the rest of it. But really, it's like it's cut a deal with this great big, Mill Trust Investments, which is a huge investment retirement savings scheme. And, that's how they talk about us. Like we're sort of, we're just nothing. So, I think that we've got it coming at us from everywhere, Sharon. But at the end of the day, it's information is important. It's always been important to me. I get to speak on here. I don't often speak that great, but what I get to speak about is from information, and I'm very frustrated that it's so hard to get information, and it's getting harder and harder every day. And, I've seen people complain about it before, and I've thought, well, you're probably just not asking the right questions or whatever, but that's not true. It's very, very hard to get information out of government departments. And, go back again, when you consider what I like, it's very easy to turn around and say, oh, well, I don't like those government departments then because they're not giving the information. But, like I said, having that insight to know that these people are actually, a lot of these people are bullied, and maybe it's a bully that won't give me the information. I don't know, but I really believe that the government of the day should be able to display quite clearly how much land is New Zealand owned. I guess one of the shocking things that I heard as a response to the 50 Shades of Green people was that was basically that these people were hicks, or they were sort of treated poorly by Shane Jones. Shane Jones is actually the Minister of Forestry, so this is this is somebody that's benefited probably greatly from or in a position where he has to decide, which, again, another problem. We've got one person in between our forests, our freedoms, our democracy, our transparency. It comes down to everywhere you look is just there's just this one person. But he treated these people like they were silly for asking, or they were being ungrateful because these great foreign investment people were buying these farms. And these people have gallantly kept going and kept that momentum and pressure on the on this whole issue, and we want to continue that. We want to continue it and take it as far as we can.
Yeah. Sweet. So I'm sure you're finished up on that one now. So we'll go to the last one real quick. We've got about 2 minutes. But we've got a comment from Soraya, but I think they're both the same question. I'll say them out both real quick. So why is the government favouring pine tree monoculture plantations? ? And then who is profiting of that one ? And then I'll repeat the second question after you answer that one.
Yeah. So I mean, I sort of covered that with the so pine plantations basically is it's favouring it because it is a foreign investment. So the foreign investment coming in raises the GDP. It's a short ill-gotten gain, really. It's not productivity, because the long end of that process is that the profits from that go out. And from my own personal little venture, is, as I keep insisting, that pine plantation forestry is actually doing a considerable amount of damage to our waterways, and has actually had the privilege of writing its own statement from industry only, and hasn't really had any dissent from the public or people that are affected by it. So yeah, I guess I need to add to that why I mean how it affects the waterways is the and I've talked about it on previous streams, where the once they're all cut down, and everybody can look at that at the moment in our area, because we've had a lot of pine trees cut down. Worst time of the year to have it, actually, because we will get some big rains. we get a lot of soil runoff. Now that soil, when it goes into the river, causes what you call turbidity, which is it makes it very, very hard for those, very, very hard for everything in that water to survive. And obviously, there's the great loss of soil that were light soils anyway from that hill country, and it's always going to be prone to that until it can regenerate. And the only way that you can regenerate that is with multi-species. So you certainly can't regenerate it with a pine tree because it's a monoculture, but with multi-species like the native bush, or the quickest, obviously, is pasture. Pasture is what we use to control. That's what you do in roading. You hydroseed with grasses, especially deep-rooted grasses, and try and get that soil to stabilise. Obviously, you adding some trees in there also helps a great deal. So, and that's something that we're addressing in our forestry policy, where we're being very, very specific about all of the different options, because there's just so many, and hopefully New Zealand finds that exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, we've got one more question from Char Staples. There's hi 50 Shades of Green sounds like they have a good idea of what's important.
Yeah,
Get you to address that one.
Yeah, they do. They're just. I think they're just fantastic, and we just can't offer them more support. And there just isn't. It's a difficult thing in New Zealand. We've had such a had such an aggression towards farming. Like we're actually almost chasing the animals indoors, and it's created a mindset that the animals outdoors is bad for the environment. And personally, knowing all these countries that have put all their animals indoors and how bad the environment is afterwards, it's sort of like being the canary in the coal mine. Here I am saying, well, you got trying to tell you, but I hope that over this election campaign that we can really get that message across, and convince you comfortably that animals all should be outdoors, and that farming is part of every community, and we should be much more united. Even farmers ourselves, we've got to learn how to negotiate these troubling times, because we've lost the confidence in our young people to come farming. Farming kids don't get treated that well in the universities, and they basically they don't even acknowledge that they're farming kids anymore. Once upon a time, they used to be proud of that. So I'd love to see universities actually. I'd love to see it in the universities where farming kids, were inviting some of those kids to come back and for the weekend and have fun on the farm.
Yeah. Sweet. So I think that will conclude the stream. Unless Mike Isles has anything else to say or add to the live stream for tonight. I think we discussed, Michael K discussed quite a lot of things, and of course, since it's on his platform, out there, and it's great to always get the word out there. And even though we ran some ads for the live stream tonight, I think we need to do it more days in advance, but we'll learn. We're still learning this whole live stream kind of thing, so thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we really appreciate you just supporting it, or just having a good couple comments to have a conversation about some things. But in regards to the whole protest, I think it turned out good, and I don't think if something were to happen like that again, I'm sure it's gonna not be like how it happened on the Wednesday of the 3rd. It'll probably turn out completely different if they try to do it one more, if that what I'm trying to say is if Trevor Muller basically comes out again, people are going to be aware of what he's going to do, and he's going to have bad intentions, or like people are going to have bad intentions towards him, because he didn't address the crowd. And of course that video is going to stay on our platform forever. And when people eventually search Trevor Mullard or all that stuff, it's going to be there. And I don't think there has been footage, to my knowledge, of Trevor Mullard or an MP that's actually done stuff like that before. And obviously, it's filmed, it's raw footage basically, and to see that will surprise a lot of people, and I'm sure it has. In regards to if like a political party does a protest, and I'm pretty sure that's why that was the main aggregator of it, it tried to give you guys a bad name when it's just a peaceful protest, so yeah, really hope that doesn't happen again, and hope they learn from it, from all the feedback that everyone's given on the the videos and whatnot. Just before we go, Pat Cop just said, "Hey Mike."
Hey Pat.
Yeah, we're just ending it off. I'm sorry, Pat. Bit late to the party.
She'll go back and watch it.
Hope so. Get a little catch up. So yeah. Anyways, if you guys want to add anything before I end it off, just now, and we can end after that.
No, just next week we'll hopefully get it out fairly early what we're going to be doing next week. But yeah, we're just I'm absolutely exhausted, to be honest. It's been a really, really hard week. Trying to get through all of this policy. It's been a hell of a lot of research, a hell of a lot of work, a hell of a lot of effort by the party. And for those that are watching, thank you so much for your help. And your contributions, and keep them coming. We've still got a few more days to go, and just really looking forward to finishing this and getting it out to the people and getting some feedback. So I can't stress that enough. We really want your feedback. So this is this outdoors party is your party. So and eventually, we want policy to be more formed locally. So, but this is the way that we have to do it. This is sort of hopefully just the stimulus, and we learn as people to decide what's best in our local areas and in our local communities, and how to look after each other better, and really grow that sense of belonging, and that New Zealand has always been rightfully proud about, and Julie, was, and it can be again.
Awesome. So, we'll end it off, and we'll see you next Tuesday. This next Tuesday, we're going to be very prepared, so if you're still watching, be sure to come in on Tuesday next week. Mark is going on the event on Facebook on all of our pages. That's thisquality. Michael K at NZ Outdoors Party, or just search up Michael K and his page should be there, NZ Outdoors Party, or it should be in initials. And also our website, thisquality.com/live. But yeah, next Tuesday we should be more prepared. Might have a special guest, whatever pops up really. But this platform, it just gives everyone a say, because smaller guys like the Outdoors Party, of course, a little bit harder for them to get their voice out, and get their voice out is kind of like going to a protest basically, and just to have that platform online kind of encourages more people to hear them, their choice, like you said. If they want to join in, it's up to them. We're just discussing the problems and whatnot, and we do this every week, so please share it with your friends, share it with your Facebook account, or just anything, to try and get it out there if you believe this has a kind of a potential. Of course, we're a small platform, but we're all growing. It's fairly new to the kind of generation of political parties, and to have online conferences to the public available. Most of the time in the older days, was all private conferences, and now we can actually bring on people and with this technology, and of course have a discussion or a debate or anything like that. So it's awesome to have that. Pat Kopp, he said, post a reminder and it will be a date. Smiley face.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we also need, Sam, the signing up to the party, to be a member. Make Mike Isles work really hard. It's his job to reply back to you. And so as many members as we can get, we really want members to come in now, and especially as we lead up to the election. Now's the time to sign up, and we're getting an incredible amount of people signing up daily. Sign up, come on. We need as many people as we can. So, and yeah, take care this week. Take care.
Awesome. So we end off the stream now, and thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you all on Tuesday's stream at 7:00 p.m.